gentlemen, here we are. I think this is our third boardroom. And we've come back each month to just sort of talk through the APSCO report. Have you read October's?
I briefly saw some highlights, Neil.
Oof. There weren't many highlights, were there? So look, the executive summary as I saw it, permanent recruitment is down, availability of candidates is up, and starting salaries are down. I think the only glimmer of hope was a bit of an increase in temporary and contract vacancies. So it wasn't the best read. So maybe we won't talk about that this month.
Yeah, let's move on from that one, mate.
Okay, so look, maybe with this shifting dynamic in supply and demand is clearly going to have a significant effect on, I guess, on how we deliver our services as recruitment businesses and how our business partners, clients, customers are going to engage in the services that we offer and or what they require from us. So I don't know, maybe John, I'll throw over to yourself. How's that? How's this going to affect how our clients engage with us, I guess, and or what we need to do as a recruitment business?
I think there's quite a few different effects that will come through. I mean, I think there's definitely been some trends that we see in the market of clients trying to do stuff direct. I think that's certainly one of the initial impacts. I think the number of candidates on the market, from a recruitment perspective or an agency perspective, creates challenges for us in terms of how do we field that but still give everyone a service. And I just think there's going to be a lot of there's a lot more noise in the market, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the availability of great candidates has gone up. So there's sort of some mixed messages out there as I see it.
And Max?
Yeah, I think, look, I've got to absolutely agree. I think there's a perception because more candidates are available on the market that, to John's point, the high quality or the calibre is still there. And in some cases, it's not. That is ultimately why businesses still look to specialists because the greatest candidates or the highest calibre of candidates in most cases are still in work. So it's, to John's point, mixed messages and mixed feelings in the marketplace at the moment.
So do you think? Sorry, John, I've jumped in. Over to you.
I think the other thing is there's quite a lot of emotion in the market at the moment, and I think there's a lot of people who are trying to help ex-peers, colleagues who have found themselves, in most cases, no fault of their own, looking for roles. So I think there's a huge amount of people trying to do good in the market, if that makes sense. And I think therefore, there's just lots of conflicting sounds, negative, but maybe sort of competing resources to try and help people find roles. And in the middle of that, you've got a company who've got to work their way through how do they then proceed with finding the best talent for their business whilst trying to utilise all these things at the most cost-effective ways with the most time-effective resources and all the rest of it. So it's a pretty tough time to be recruiting now. Just because there's a lot of candidates doesn't mean it's a great time to be recruiting.
You talk about a lot of candidates. I mean, we work in recruitment, so we're talking about recruitment for a good portion of our day. And I find myself, whether it be a conversation with candidates, clients and or team members, we use LinkedIn. I think a lot of companies use LinkedIn Recruiter or LinkedIn Jobs to actually post job adverts. And one of the things you can see when you're using LinkedIn Jobs is you can see how many applicants have applied to that job. And I believe candidates that are applying for the jobs can see the number of applicants as well. And some of the application numbers are absolutely huge. I think I've certainly seen within our team an IT director role with over 700 applications. That's causing challenges for everyone. So how's the industry dealing with that? And let's look at it from how are our clients, because clients will advertise directly, right? How are they dealing with that volume of applications right now?
I think for me, mate, from speaking to a number of clients who are advertising direct, they're finding it really challenging. And I think it goes to John's point, unless you have that dedicated resource, that internal talent team or that recruitment partner internally who is going to dedicate 100% of their time to go through every applicant, to find the right people to bring forward for interview. That creates a lot of challenges, right? So I think that's a big thing that clients are feeling at the moment. Although there is a high volume of people applying for roles, it's having the time to go through those applications, because that isn't just one person's job. And the person that is normally going through that sometimes isn't a specialist, and has other elements of their role or elements of their day job that they're still having to complete as well. So in some cases, candidates may get missed through no fault of their own, because there is such a high volume.
And obviously, we talk about employer branding regularly, right? A big part of our role is always trying to represent a company's and the business's employer brand. Can you see, are there good stories out there or examples of where, end user clients that are going through the recruitment process are managing to still manage that employer brand effectively with that volume of applications?
I mean, I think, I don't want to say there must be. There must be. I haven't got a client to hand that I could go, yeah, this has happened. They've managed it completely. And I think when you are talking about volumes of 600-700, it's tough to make sure that every single one of those people gets responded and all the rest of it. And I think, therefore, it's like using some of the tools within LinkedIn, and I suppose the knowledge of how to utilize those tools to make sure people are having responses, even if they're discounted right at the beginning of the phases. We always talk about time stealing time. If someone applies for a job and fundamentally they don't make the criteria, having a response straight away so that at least they know they haven't been successful is beneficial. But I think that level of responses is always going to be a challenge for any business, including a recruitment business. But I suppose the recruitment businesses are set up to be able to deal with that volume. I think the most important thing of all of this is, especially when you start to talk about more technical roles and I suppose the professional roles that we're covering, having a individual or teams of individuals that are 1 minute covering a technology vacancy, 1 minute covering a qualified finance vacancy, 1 minute covering something within a specialist area of HR, to be able to bounce between those different disciplines with not a huge amount of knowledge, to be able to make sure you're identifying the right candidates to put in front of your hiring managers without that level of expertise, potentially is more challenging. And potentially that part in having those conversations with developers or HR professionals, I think those conversations could actually be more damaging to the employer brand through the lack of knowledge or technical knowledge that individual knows as they're having those conversations. So I think it's not just the responses, it's then how are you responding and the quality of those responses going back.
I think, John, and that comes into having somebody to manage that process from start to finish, having somebody dedicated to do that, having that dedicated resource is where it's so important, but also having total clarity on what the role, what the skill set, what the requirement is, rather than just having a generic advert that goes on LinkedIn, will help businesses go through that process of advertising directly.
Yeah. I was about to ask. Do you think it demotivates the candidate? If they see 100 applications, 150 applications, do you think it demotivates the candidate applying to a role when they see that number? But I'm not going to ask that. I'm going to throw a bit more of a contentious one out there. Do you think, where we as recruiters or companies that do the same job as us that work in the industry, do you think it's affecting how we as recruiters are working? If we know that we're working with customers, clients that are employing their own recruitment strategies as well, does it affect how we work as recruiters, or have you got any examples of how it might affect positively or negatively? I
know that in the last 6 weeks we've made placements with clients who were also using internal teams. So I don't think it's necessarily affected what we do. We would still provide a shortlist. Obviously, every so often you might come across a candidate that may be also having applied direct. And in that respect, it's sometimes quite difficult because that candidate might not have been shortlisted, but we know that candidate really well, and we think that candidate will be really good. So sometimes those conflicts those conflicts do come up. But I think from an agency perspective, I don't think that it necessarily puts off or stops us from going through any of the processes, the normal processes we would do. Once we've engaged with a client, clearly we probably have a little bit more touch points with the clients, just in terms of trying to understand where they are from an internal perspective. But sometimes our contact within the client is different to the internal recruitment person within the client. So therefore it's difficult sometimes to get a steer on exactly what's going on. So therefore sometimes we do see some delays in the processes, and that can again affect the employer branding and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, I asked the question, but I guess what made me think of it was a specific situation this week, working with a client. They do their own direct recruiting. They do partner with a number of recruiters, us being one of them. And chatting to the CTO there, he's getting very frustrated because I guess the number of candidates in the market and the number of strategies they're trying to use to secure the talent that they want does sort of create that fastest finger first type sort of recruitment delivery. And I'm not saying it's right, whether it's wrong, but it does sort of force candidates that see high volumes of applications and think they're a good fit and want to find the job are still going to apply without because there's a level of desire and not desperation is too strong a word, but they need to find an income. Likewise, multiple recruiters are all trying to represent the talent that they have, and that sort of fastest finger first mentality can really devalue the whole recruitment process and can sort of affect that employer brand. So we're starting to see a little bit of that with some of the businesses we've partnered with in London. So I think as recruiters, we've got to make sure we're doing our bit to ensure that we don't devalue what we're doing through that fastest finger first service.
Neil, that's where it comes into, and we've spoken about it a lot. Becoming that true extension of that business and being their true recruitment partner is going to be very, very important, because we've got to still continue to add that value over the coming months. So becoming that true partner is going to be so important now more than ever.
Well, look, guys, time as always is going to beat us, and one of the things we do try and do in these boardrooms is not to be too self-serving and just talk about the benefits of working with a recruitment firm. So John, if we're trying to put out advice to clients that we're working with that are trying to attract talent without the use of a recruiter and look to manage that process themselves, what advice should we be giving them right now on how to maximise their own recruitment strategies?
I think first and foremost, make sure they've got a very clear role brief and they understand exactly what they're going out to market with. I think secondly, having a very clear idea of how they're going to field that response and who is going to field out the response. And I think certainly with the more technical roles, who's the person that's going to have that first screening conversation with someone, because that's going to really set your employer brand apart from some of the others. And it is a competitive market still. The people are still being offered roles. Good people are still hard to get. So I think that first point of contact needs to be someone who can genuinely sell the virtues of your business and represent your brand in a way that would attract you as well as this other person to your business. So I think you need to think carefully about how that flow goes through. Probably the three most important.
Sounds good. And look, Max, at the end of the day, this is a piece of social media that we're going to be putting on our website and posting on LinkedIn. So, with the market dynamics that are out there, how would you advise our clients on how they could work with a company like us to maximise the value that we could return to them?
I think, Neil, it's going back to my earlier point. It's allow us the opportunity to be that true extension of your business, be that true recruitment partner, and give us the opportunity to add that value. I think that's fundamentally the most important for me. Let us showcase what we can do and the value that we can bring to your recruitment process.
Well, hopefully that gives a bit of balance to the conversation. So, look, I think if anyone does want to read the full AppsGo report, there'll be a link to download it and get the full report. And look, while there was, it wasn't the best reading this month. Clearly, there are still customers and clients that we're working with recruitment campaigns on, looking to hire strong talent, And for candidates out there that are still looking for roles, do keep in touch, because there are, the market is being very specific, but absolutely continues to move, and it's certainly not all doom and gloom from what we're seeing. So thanks for everyone's time today.